Sometimes the only way to win is to disappear. There comes a moment in a person's life when the noise around them grows so loud that their own thoughts begin to disappear. You feel it when you are constantly explaining yourself, constantly justifying your choices, constantly proving your worth to people who have already decided not to understand you. It is a slow erosion of your spirit, a draining of your energy, a quiet death by distraction. No sword touches you, no enemy confronts you directly, but you are defeated in 100 small ways every single day. And the truth that no one teaches you when you are young is this: sometimes the only way to win is to disappear. Not as escape, not as surrender, but as the ultimate strategy of self-preservation and self-mastery. When Marcus Aurelius wrote about withdrawing into oneself, he was not speaking of isolation, he was speaking of reclaiming sovereignty. There are battles you win by force, and there are battles you win by stepping out of the arena entirely. Life becomes clearer the moment you understand that not every conflict deserves your presence, and not every person deserves access to your peace. Disappearance, when chosen with intention, becomes an act of power. It is the refusal to let your mind be pulled in every direction. It is the decision to rise above what drains you, to rise above the noise, to rise above the impulsive reactions that keep you trapped in cycles that are beneath your purpose. People fear disappearing because they think it means being forgotten. The opposite is true. You are forgotten when you stay where you are diminished. You are remembered when your silence forces others to confront the emptiness created by your absence. The world reveals its truth not when you speak, but when you stop speaking. The relationships wither or strengthen, the intentions clarify, the masks fall. By disappearing, you learn who values your presence and who only valued the benefits of you being available. You stop being a character in someone else's narrative and return to being the author of your own. There is a deeper reason why disappearing works. When you remove yourself from unhealthy spaces, you interrupt the pattern that kept you exhausted. The moment you step back, even slightly, your mind begins to breathe. You see the dynamics more clearly. You realize how much energy was wasted on people who did not grow with you. How many days were lost in battles that could never be won because the battlefield was designed to keep you losing. You understand that silence is not empty. Silence is information. It gives you the distance to observe yourself, to question your role in the conflict, to sharpen your judgment, and to rebuild your inner strength without interference. Disappearing is not an act of running away. It is an act of returning to yourself. It is stepping out of the storm to see it for what it truly is. It is recognizing that your life cannot be led at the mercy of those who drain your spirit. Marcus Aurelius would say that a person who knows their own mind cannot be harmed by the opinions of others. To disappear is to protect that mind, to honor it, to rebuild it. There is a version of you that only emerges when the world no longer has its hands on your attention. When you choose distance, you choose evolution. You will learn in this journey that disappearing is not the end of anything. It is the beginning of clarity. And clarity is the highest ground from which to win any battle worth fighting. Every human being carries a finite amount of mental, emotional, and spiritual energy. You feel this truth even if you have never put it into words. There are days when a single conversation exhausts you more than hours of physical work. There are moments when one person's presence drains you faster than a long day of responsibilities. This is not imagination. This is the law of energetic economics, a law as real as gravity, even if most people live as if it does not exist. You lose every time you invest your energy in places, relationships, and conflicts where the return is nothing but emptiness. And the tragedy is that most people keep pouring themselves out because they believe endurance is the same thing as strength. It is not. Endurance without direction is self-destruction disguised as virtue. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He wrote that the mind should never waste itself on what it cannot change, nor on what does not shape virtue. In other words, every moment of attention is an investment, and your life becomes whatever you consistently invest in. Yet most people scatter their energy everywhere, trying to fix others, trying to convince those who never truly listen, trying to win battles that should never have been fought. They bleed strength into arguments that have no resolution, into people who take without reciprocating, into environments that only grow more demanding the more you give. This constant leaking of energy creates a slow internal collapse. You wake up tired, not because of your responsibilities, but because of where your spirit has been spending its currency. To disappear is to close the account. It is to pull your energy back from places where it brings no growth. When you disappear, you interrupt the cycle of pouring yourself into the void. You stop fighting for the attention of those who do not see you. You stop trying to fix problems created by the very people who depend on your reaction. You step out of the emotional economy that drains you and step into one where your energy is preserved, directed, and protected. This shift is not visible from the outside, but internally it is transformative. Suddenly, your mind begins to recharge. Your emotions no longer spill over. Your thoughts sharpen. You stop feeling like you are constantly chasing something that always stays just out of reach. People interpret disappearing as abandonment, but it is correction. You correct the imbalance that has been weakening you. When you step back, the world no longer gets to dictate what you respond to. You reclaim choice. And with choice comes power. You begin to see the hidden cost behind every interaction. You notice how certain conversations leave you feeling smaller, how certain dynamics demand more than they give, how certain people feed off your reactions because it keeps them in control. When you disappear, the flow reverses. Instead of your energy going outward uncontrollably, it starts flowing inward. You rebuild yourself from the inside out because you are no longer spending your strength to maintain situations that drain you. The truth is simple and uncomfortable. You cannot rise while bleeding energy on what does not elevate you. The mind cannot expand when it is constantly overloaded with unnecessary conflict. Your spirit cannot grow when it is always on the defensive. Disappearing becomes the only logical response when you understand that your inner resources are sacred and limited. You protect them not out of selfishness, but out of self-respect. You stop giving discounts on your presence. You stop negotiating your peace. You stop allowing the world to take freely from you as if your energy were infinite. This law is the foundation of every true transformation. When your energy withdraws from what weakens you and redirects toward what strengthens you, your entire life begins to shift. What once felt overwhelming becomes irrelevant. What once controlled you loses its power. What once consumed your mind becomes small in the distance. You do not disappear to escape life. You disappear to reclaim it, to preserve the essence that makes you who you are, and to invest in a future where your strength is not wasted, but multiplied. There is a reason your silence feels so unsettling to certain people. They were never afraid of your anger. They were never afraid of your arguments. They were never afraid of your resistance. They were afraid of the moment you would stop reacting, because reaction is control. The moment you respond, they know they still have access to your energy, your attention, and your emotional center. This is why disappearing is not merely absence, it is a power shift. It breaks the dynamic that allowed others to influence your inner state. When you go silent, you remove the fuel from the fire they kept alive through conflict, guilt, pressure, or manipulation. Suddenly, they stand in a field that only burned because you kept feeding it. People who relied on your reactions feel threatened, not because you vanished, but because your absence exposes the truth of the relationship. As long as you were present, they could justify their behavior through your responses. They could blame you, provoke you, and keep the cycle going because you played your role. But when you disappear, the script collapses. They are left alone with their intentions, their actions, and their conscience. There is no one left to absorb their frustration or carry the weight of their emotional chaos. Silence forces them to confront themselves, and for many, that is the one thing they fear most. It is easier to point at you than to look into the mirror. Your disappearance removes that shield. Marcus Aurelius wrote that nothing strengthens a person more than learning to remain unmoved by external forces. He understood that power is not in dominating others, but in mastering oneself. When you disappear, you demonstrate this mastery. You show that no one can pull you like a puppet. You show that your emotions are not open for manipulation. You show that access to you is a privilege, not a right. People who benefited from your openness are left in the dark, trying to guess your thoughts, and uncertainty is a powerful reversal. It shifts the psychological weight onto them. They start questioning their own influence. They start wondering what you saw, what you understood, what you realized. Silence becomes your shield in their discomfort. There is another layer to this shift. When you stop engaging, you reveal who depended on your weakness. Some people only thrive when they feel they can throw you off balance. They build their sense of control around your predictable reactions. When they push, you respond. When they provoke, you defend yourself. When they guilt trip you, you explain. This keeps them in the position of power. But the moment you disappear, their system collapses. They lose the stimulation they fed on. They lose the certainty that you will always respond. They lose the comfort of knowing they can reach into your life at any moment. They are forced to confront the reality that you no longer play the role they assigned you. And nothing destabilizes a controlling person more than losing control. What many fail to understand is that silence is not passive. Silence is active. It is strategic. It is deliberate. It sends a message louder than any confrontation could. It says, I see what you are doing, and I refuse to participate. It says, I will not carry the emotional burden you place on me. It says, I choose my peace over your chaos. This kind of silence is a declaration of independence. You are not disappearing out of fear. You are disappearing out of awareness. You are removing yourself from their reach because you finally understand the cost of staying accessible to people who misuse your presence. Your silence also reveals the intentions of those around you. The ones who cared only about what you offered will resent your withdrawal. The ones who cared about you will try to understand it. The reaction becomes the clarity you could not gain while you were still entangled in the noise. This is the paradox. Disappearing is the moment when everything becomes clear. You see who values you, who used you, who depended on your reactions, and who never deserved your energy to begin with. Your silence becomes the lens through which the truth finally reveals itself. This is why disappearing is powerful. It shifts the balance. It removes you from their control and places the control back into your hands. You no longer respond to pressure. You no longer bend to expectations. You no longer play the game that kept you drained. And in that moment, the world around you adjusts. Those who tried to control you lose their grip. Those who misunderstood you begin to question themselves, and you, for the first time in a long time, stand in the center of your own life, untethered, unmanipulated, and unafraid. There is a moment right after you pull away from the noise when your mind feels strangely unstable. You are used to reacting, explaining, defending, anticipating. Silence feels unnatural at first because your brain has been conditioned to stay on alert. This is why disappearing is not just a social or emotional act. It is a neurological reset. When you remove yourself from environments that drained you, your nervous system finally stops operating as if every interaction were a threat. Your mind begins to untangle itself from the constant stimulation that kept you in survival mode. The absence of pressure reveals the toll that pressure took on you. The brain cannot heal while it is defending itself. This is a truth most people ignore. As long as you remain in the same environment, repeating the same patterns, reacting to the same provocations, your brain stays locked in the same loops. The amygdala remains overactive, scanning for the next emotional blow. The prefrontal cortex struggles to think clearly because it is occupied by constant vigilance. You are trying to build a peaceful life with a mind that never learned peace. Disappearing interrupts these patterns. It gives the brain a break from the chaos it had to normalize. It allows your thoughts to reorganize themselves without interference. When you withdraw, the first thing that happens is mental defogging. You begin to recognize thoughts that were buried under daily emotional noise. You start noticing what you actually feel instead of what you were forced to feel. You realize that certain anxieties were not yours, but came from the people around you. Distance reveals the difference between internal pressure and imposed pressure. Without the constant push of external influence, your brain finally has the space to return to equilibrium. Even your heartbeat and breathing start to change, because your nervous system no longer receives the subtle signals that once kept you tense. This shift might feel uncomfortable at first. The silence exposes thoughts you avoided. The stillness forces you to face parts of yourself you neglected. But this discomfort is not a sign of weakness. It is the sign of a mind recalibrating. When Marcus Aurelius spoke about withdrawing into yourself as often as possible, he understood that clarity requires solitude. The mind cannot reason clearly when overwhelmed. It cannot judge correctly when pressured. It cannot grow when constantly defending itself. Disappearing gives your brain the raw material needed for insight, quiet, space, and the absence of unnecessary conflict. As the brain resets, something deeper happens. Your emotional patterns begin to break down. The triggers that once controlled you lose their intensity because they are no longer reinforced by repetition. People who once provoked you no longer have the same power because you are not actively engaging with them. Situations that once drained you lose their influence because your mind is no longer tethered to them. You begin to reclaim your emotional independence. This is where the shift becomes profound. You start to notice how much you were reacting instead of choosing, how much you were enduring instead of living, how much of your identity was shaped by environments that did not deserve you. This reset also reveals a part of yourself that had been silent for a long time. The calm part, the logical part, the part that sees clearly instead of emotionally. This part rises when the noise fades. It begins to guide your decisions instead of the impulses that once dictated your reactions. You start to question patterns that once felt normal. You ask yourself if the roles you played were truly aligned with who you are. You recognize that some people benefited from your confusion because clarity would have made you walk away sooner. Distance brings truth, and truth brings strength. That strength grows quietly but steadily. In this psychological reset, your brain is not only healing, it is evolving. It starts forming new associations. It learns to value peace more than approval. It learns to prioritize internal stability over external acceptance. It learns that your energy is precious and must be protected. You stop feeling responsible for fixing everything around you because you finally understand that the constant fixing was breaking you. You stop carrying emotional weights that were never yours. You stop tolerating dynamics that undermine your growth. The mind, once freed from chaos, becomes razor sharp. It sees the path forward with clarity that was impossible when you were consumed by distraction. This reset is not the end of your transformation. It is the foundation. It prepares you for the next evolution of yourself. It prepares you to rebuild your identity, your purpose, and your sense of direction without interference. And the more your mind returns to its natural state, the more you understand why disappearing was not running away, but choosing the only environment where your true self could return. The moment you step back from a situation, everything that was hidden begins to surface. People think that disappearing is simply walking away, but the truth goes much deeper. By removing yourself, you collapse the very patterns that kept the relationship, the conflict, or the environment functioning. Every dynamic depends on participation, and most of the invisible chains that tied you down were sustained by your responses, your presence, your willingness to endure whatever was placed on your shoulders. When you disappear, that system loses its anchor. Without you, the pattern begins to fall apart, and in the middle of that collapse, masks start slipping. You learn more about people in your absence than you ever learned while standing right beside them. As long as you were present, they behaved according to the script. They knew your reactions, your empathy, your patience, your predictability. They relied on you being who you have always been. But when you disappear, they lose the character they needed you to play. Suddenly, there is no one to absorb their frustration, no one to take the blame, no one to stabilize the chaos. Their response to your silence becomes the revelation you never received when you were still inside the storm. Some grow angry, some grow confused, some grow suddenly apologetic, some vanish instantly, revealing how shallow their connection truly was. And in these reactions, you see the truth with a clarity that could never have existed before. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the nature of anything becomes visible when it is stripped from what sustains it. Conflict is the same, relationships are the same, cycles of emotional manipulation are the same. Without the role you once played, everything is forced to survive on its own authenticity. If someone cared only for what you provided, the absence of your presence creates resentment instead of reflection. If someone respected you, your silence creates concern instead of anger. The collapse of the pattern reveals the motive, the intention, the inner logic that was always there, but disguised by routine. Disappearing exposes what speech could never uncover. The most powerful part of this collapse is what happens within you. While others reveal themselves in your absence, you begin to see yourself with new eyes. You notice how many times you stayed in situations out of habit, not loyalty. How often you explained yourself to people who had no interest in understanding you. How frequently you softened your truth to avoid conflict that only grew sharper with each concession. Your disappearance breaks your own patterns too. You stop responding automatically. You stop trying to fix everything. You stop prioritizing others at the cost of your own sanity. Space gives you honesty, and honesty rebuilds your identity. There is a certain discomfort in watching a dynamic fall apart without you holding it together, but this discomfort is necessary. You finally see how much weight you were carrying, how many responsibilities were placed on you without your consent, how many people relied on your strength because it kept their weaknesses hidden. When you leave, their mask falls because your presence was the disguise. Some people need a strong person nearby to appear stronger themselves. Some need a patient person nearby to hide their lack of patience. Some need a giving person nearby to conceal their inability to give anything in return. Your disappearance removes the shield they used to cover their true character. This pattern collapse also reveals the truth about power. While you stayed, you believed others had control over you. You believed their reactions mattered more than your peace. You believed their approval defined your worth, but once you disappear, you realize that the power was never theirs. You were the stabilizing force. You were the emotional center. You were the one who kept everything functioning. Once you reclaim your energy, the balance reverses. Those who tried to control you lose their influence. Those who underestimated you are forced to confront the impact of your absence. Those who dismissed your value are confronted with the void you leave behind. This collapse is not destruction, it is revelation. It allows you to see who stays loyal when they no longer benefit, who grows defensive when they no longer dominate, who disappears as quickly as they once demanded your presence. And with every mask that falls, You step deeper into the clarity that disappearing was never abandonment, but liberation. You do not need to expose anyone. You do not need to confront anyone. You do not need to announce anything. The collapse speaks for you. Your silence becomes the truth that once hid behind the noise. And when the dust settles, you do not return to the same place you stepped away from. You return wiser, sharper, and free from the illusions that once controlled you. Because once a mask falls, it can never be placed back the same way again. When you disappear, people assume you are retreating. They imagine you are hurt, defeated, overwhelmed, or broken. They believe silence is a sign of collapse because they cannot imagine silence as a place of rebirth. But isolation, when chosen consciously, becomes the chamber where your next self is forged. It is the place where the noise of the world cannot reach you, where the expectations of others lose their grip, and where your mind finally has the space to rebuild itself without interference. What looks like withdrawal from the outside is actually transformation on the inside. It is not the end of anything, it is the beginning of someone new. There is a certain kind of strength that can only be cultivated alone. When you step away from environments that constantly demand your reaction, you regain the mental bandwidth needed to examine your life with honesty. You start seeing patterns you once tolerated because you were too tired to question them. You recognize choices you made out of habit rather than intention. You discover aspects of yourself that were overshadowed by the roles you played to keep the peace around you. Solitude becomes a mirror that reflects your truth without distortion. It forces you to face both your weaknesses and your potential with equal clarity, and in that clarity, growth finally becomes possible. Marcus Aurelius believed that a person must frequently withdraw into themselves, not to escape the world, but to strengthen their ability to face it. He understood that solitude is not isolation, but preparation. It is the sharpening of the mind, the settling of the spirit, the strengthening of inner discipline. When you are alone, there is no one to impress, no one to defend yourself against, no one to distract you from your internal dialogue. You confront the parts of yourself that need refinement. You listen to the questions you ignored. You learn to sit with your thoughts without running from them, and in that silence a new kind of resilience grows. During this phase, you start rebuilding your identity piece by piece. You reevaluate your values, your boundaries, your priorities. You strip away everything that was added to you by pressure, expectation, or manipulation. You stop carrying the beliefs that were never yours. You stop participating in dynamics that drained your purpose. You let go of identities created to survive environments that never deserved you. What remains is the raw, unfiltered version of you, the version untouched by the world's demands. From that foundation, you begin constructing a self that matches your inner truth rather than the roles imposed upon you. This reconstruction is not dramatic. It does not announce itself. It happens subtly, quietly, as your mind regains its strength. You start waking up with more clarity. You feel your emotions stabilizing. You sense your inner voice growing louder than the noise that once drowned it out. You become more cautious with your energy, more selective with your attention, more intentional with your decisions. People think isolation weakens you, but in reality, it frees you from the emotional entanglements that once drained your spirit. You begin to understand how rare peace is and how much of your life was spent fighting battles that were never meant to be yours. As you reconstruct yourself, you develop a new relationship with your own company. You stop fearing loneliness because you realize loneliness was never the absence of people, but the absence of self. When the world grows quiet, you rediscover your own presence. You learn to trust your instincts again. You learn to listen to your needs without guilt. You learn to define your boundaries without apology. The self you are building in isolation is not fragile. It is not dependent on approval. It is not controlled by other people's emotions. It is sovereign, grounded, and aligned with your purpose. In this chamber of solitude, something else happens. You become immune to the chaos that once controlled you. When you return to the world, you do not return as the same person who left. The triggers that once provoked you no longer have the same power. The people who once manipulated you no longer find the same openings. The environments that once drained you no longer feel intimidating. You return centered, anchored in yourself, aware of your worth, aware of your direction. You no longer enter spaces looking for validation. You enter knowing that the only validation you need comes from the strength you rebuilt while no one was watching. Isolation reveals the truth, shapes the truth, and strengthens the truth. It is where you become who you were meant to be before the world interfered. And once you emerge from this self-reconstruction chamber, nothing external can sway you as easily as it once did. You have returned to yourself, and from this point on, every step you take carries the weight of someone who has rebuilt their foundation with intention, discipline, and clarity. There is a moment in every transformation when the silence ends, not because you are seeking attention, not because you need validation, but because you have completed the internal work that required your absence. This moment is the return. But the person who returns is not the same person who disappeared. The world expects to meet the old version of you, the one who reacted predictably, the one who tolerated too much, the one who carried weight that was never theirs. What they encounter instead is someone unrecognizable, someone sharper, someone calmer, someone whose sense of self is no longer dependent on the shifting emotions of others. This return is not an announcement, it is a revelation. When you come back, you bring with you a clarity that others cannot ignore. People feel the shift even before they can name it. Your presence no longer bends under pressure. Your silence no longer signals weakness. Your boundaries no longer waver. You have stepped out of the pattern that once defined you, and because of that, the pattern itself can never return to what it used to be. Your new identity forces the world to adjust. You walk differently, think differently, respond differently. You are not controlled by fear, need, or emotional dependency. You operate from a place of internal stability, and that stability changes the dynamics of every interaction. Marcus Aurelius believed that true strength is quiet, consistent, and unshakable. It is not displayed in confrontation, but in composure. When you return after disappearing, your composure becomes your advantage. You no longer get pulled into conflicts that once consumed you. You choose your battles with precision. You speak less, but your words carry more weight. You listen more, but you are no longer easily swayed. You offer presence, not availability. You offer clarity, not explanation. You are no longer shaped by external chaos. Instead, you shape the environment through your self-control. One of the most profound parts of this return is how people react to the new version of you. Some will be drawn to your strength, sensing the depth you gained in your silence. They will respect the new boundaries, appreciate your presence, and align themselves with your growth. Others will be threatened by it because your evolution exposes their stagnation. They cannot manipulate the new you. They cannot predict the new you. They cannot rely on the old patterns to influence your behavior. Their discomfort reveals that your transformation was necessary. Without saying a single word, your presence reveals what they were hoping would stay hidden. You are no longer a participant in dramas that once drained your spirit. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself. You no longer engage with people who do not respect your time, your effort, or your values. This withdrawal from old dynamics is not arrogance. It is alignment. It is the natural result of understanding your worth. You have rebuilt your foundation, and now you protect it. The return is not about rejoining the world as it was, but about entering the world as it should be. One where your inner truth dictates your path rather than the expectations of others. With this new identity comes a shift in priorities. You begin to invest your time only where it brings growth. You choose relationships that nourish your mind, not drain it. You create distance from chaos, not because it scares you, but because you no longer confuse chaos with passion or connection. You pursue goals with a quiet intensity, no longer distracted by unnecessary conflict. You trust your decisions because they are rooted in reflection rather than impulse. The world sees the results, but only you know the silence that built them. And perhaps the most powerful part of this return is what it does for your future. You cannot be pulled back into who you used to be because you have seen what lies beyond the noise. You have experienced the strength that comes from solitude, the clarity that comes from silence, the power that comes from reclaiming your energy. You know the cost of staying in places that diminish you. You know the reward of stepping away. You know the value of protecting your peace. This knowledge becomes your armor. It keeps you steady when others try to test your boundaries. It keeps you focused when distractions appear. It keeps you anchored when the world tries to pull you in directions that no longer align with who you have become. Your return is not a comeback. It is an ascension. It is the unveiling of a self that was always there, waiting for the noise to fade. You do not return to prove anything. You return because you have built something within yourself that is too strong, too disciplined, and too grounded to remain hidden. And from this moment on, every step you take reflects the power of someone who disappeared not to vanish, but to rise. If Marcus Aurelius could stand before you now, an emperor who ruled millions yet understood the quiet battles of the human mind, he would not tell you to fight harder. He would not tell you to explain yourself more clearly. He would not tell you to endure endless conflict in the hope that others might someday change. He would look at you with the calm certainty that only a disciplined mind possesses and say that withdrawing is not weakness, but wisdom. He knew better than anyone that a person who spends their life reacting becomes a prisoner of the world around them. Disappearing, in his philosophy, is the act of reclaiming the self from the chaos of unnecessary engagement. He would tell you that your mind is your only true domain. Everything else, opinions, judgments, accusations, expectations, is external. The Stoics taught that peace is not found by controlling the world, but by mastering your response to it. When you disappear, you are not abandoning your responsibilities or refusing to face challenges. You are retreating into the one place where clarity can be restored, yourself. Marcus would remind you that withdrawing into your inner fortress was something he practiced daily, even while leading an empire. He would tell you that a person who cannot step back from the noise cannot see the truth that hides behind it. Marcus Aurelius would explain that disappearing is a form of discipline. It is a refusal to let your emotions be governed by the impulses of others. It is a rejection of the idea that you must always be available, always be reactive, always be pulled in every direction. He knew the cost of spreading oneself too thin, of trying to satisfy the demands of people who cannot be satisfied. He would say that your disappearance is the moment you reclaim the right to choose where your energy goes. It is the moment you stop pouring yourself into situations that do not serve you. It is the moment you stop allowing the world to dictate the terms of your inner life. He would also tell you that those who misunderstand your withdrawal reveal themselves in the process. The Stoics believed that nature exposes truth when unnecessary elements fall away. In your absence, others show their true intentions. Those who were loyal will remain loyal. Those who valued only your availability will disappear. Those who depended on your weakness will grow restless. Marcus Aurelius would remind you that it is not your duty to carry relationships that cannot stand without your constant effort. Let them fall. Anything that collapses under the weight of your silence was never strong enough to deserve your presence. Marcus would also speak about the transformation happening inside you. He would point out that solitude is the training ground of the strong. In silence, a person discovers who they truly are. In distance, they find the wisdom that noise hides. In withdrawal, they forge the kind of strength that does not need to announce itself. He would tell you that the mind becomes sharp only when freed from distraction. The heart becomes steady only when freed from chaos, and the spirit becomes strong only when freed from dependency. Your disappearance is not an ending. It is a refining fire. You are not retreating from life. You are stepping back to return with precision. He would warn you against returning too soon. A Stoic does not walk back into a battle simply because the world demands it. You return only when you have rebuilt your center. You return when your perspective is restored. You return when your emotions no longer dictate your actions. And when you do return, you return as someone unshaken. Marcus Aurelius knew that a person who controls themselves commands the respect of the world, not through force, not through intimidation, through the quiet certainty of someone who cannot be moved from within. And finally, he would tell you this: disappearing is not about others. It is about you. It is about the sacredness of your inner life. It is about protecting the mind from the corruption of chaos. It is about preserving your spirit so it does not fade under the weight of others' expectations. A Stoic does not live at the mercy of the world. A Stoic lives in harmony with themselves, regardless of external noise. Marcus Aurelius would say that sometimes the only way to win is to step away from the battlefield altogether. Not because you fear the fight, but because the fight is unworthy of your strength. Because your peace is more valuable than someone else's chaos. Because the person you are becoming requires silence to emerge. He would tell you that your disappearance is the first step towards sovereignty. And sovereignty, in the Stoic sense, is the ultimate victory, the ability to govern yourself no matter what happens around you. There comes a point in life when the cost of staying becomes heavier than the fear of leaving. You feel it quietly at first, like a subtle tightening in the chest, a fatigue you cannot explain, a restlessness that follows you even into moments that should bring peace. You try to ignore it, telling yourself you can endure a little longer, give a little more, bend a little further. But every time you stay in a place that drains you, a piece of you fades. Not dramatically, not all at once. It fades in small, almost invisible ways, until one day you wake up and realize you no longer recognize yourself. This is the moment when the truth becomes undeniable. You only lose when you stay where your soul is dying. Disappearing is the choice to stop losing. It is the moment you reclaim the pieces of yourself that were scattered across too many battles and too many expectations. It is not an act of pride. It is not revenge. It is not an attempt to teach anyone a lesson. It is the refusal to keep participating in your own exhaustion. It is the understanding that healing does not happen in the same environment that broke you. When you step away, you are not abandoning anyone. You are saving the part of you that was slowly suffocating under the weight of what you were trying to carry. You are choosing survival, clarity, strength, and truth over the comfort of familiarity. In your disappearance, you discover something most people never take the time to learn: how to hear your own voice again. Without constant noise pulling you in every direction, your mind begins to reveal what it has been trying to tell you for years. You see the truth of your relationships, the truth of your patterns, the truth of your desires. You understand which battles you were fighting out of obligation rather than purpose. You recognize how much of your identity was built in reaction to others instead of in alignment with your nature. You begin, for the first time in a long time, to ask yourself not, what do they need, but what do I need? And the answer to that question becomes the foundation of your new life. Disappearing gives you the space to rebuild without pressure. You start choosing your actions instead of reacting to the actions of others. You define your boundaries instead of waiting for someone else to respect them. You create a discipline of peace, protecting your energy as if it were the most valuable resource you possess, because it is. You realize how differently you think when you are not being pulled in 1,000 directions. You realize how rarely you allowed yourself to simply exist without explanation. You realize how much potential had been buried under constant emotional labor that was never yours to perform. This clarity becomes the soil where your next chapter begins. There will be people who do not understand your silence. They will tell themselves stories to fill the void you left behind. They will call you distant, cold, selfish, or dramatic. They will question your motives because your transformation disrupts the version of you they were comfortable with. But those who truly value your presence will not resent your absence. They will reflect. They will grow. They will understand your need for distance and respect it. Your disappearance acts as a filter, removing what was never real and revealing what was meant to stay. Let people show you the truth. Do not interfere. Do not explain. Let their actions do the speaking. The power of disappearing lies in what it awakens within you. You stop accepting crumbs of affection. You stop explaining your worth. You stop tolerating chaos as if it were normal. You rise from the silence with a dignity that cannot be shaken. You walk differently because you finally understand that your presence is valuable, your energy is limited, and your peace is sacred. You no longer confuse toxicity with intensity. You no longer believe that loyalty means staying in places that diminish you. You no longer carry burdens that were handed to you simply because you were strong enough to lift them. And as you move through life with this new awareness, something becomes undeniably clear. Disappearing was not an ending. It was a beginning. The moment you chose yourself quietly, privately, without announcement, was the moment your life shifted. You stopped playing games designed to keep you losing. You stopped fighting for people who would never fight for you. You stopped negotiating your boundaries. You stepped into the version of yourself that had been waiting behind years of noise. This version walks with purpose, speaks with intention, and stands with a strength that can only be forged in silence. In the end, disappearing is not about escape. It is about transformation. It is the moment you stop surviving and start living. It is the moment you choose growth over comfort, clarity over confusion, peace over chaos. And the world may not understand your decision, but you will feel the truth of it in every breath that no longer feels heavy. You will know that you made the only decision that could save you from becoming a stranger to yourself, because you never truly win by fighting harder. You win by walking away from battles that were never worthy of your spirit. And sometimes the only way to win is to disappear.